Hi, my friends. Happy Thursday. Getting right into the Swedenborg sampler. We stopped off at page 42, so I'm going to get going on it. Forgive me for not being on for a day or two. Just was a little under the weather, but now feeling better. So back at it. Um, wait, yeah, okay. So when we stopped, we were talking about for people who have focused solely on memorization during their physical lives without developing their rational ability, their memory has callous quality that looks hard, streaked with tendons inside. For people who have filled their memories with false notions, it looks shaggy because of the random mass of disorganized stuff. For people who have focused on memorization with themselves and the world first in mind, it looks stuck together and bony. For people who have tried to probe divine secrets through acquired information, especially philosophical information, without believing anything before they are convinced by the information, their memory looks dark. With a quality that actually absorbs rays of light and turns them into darkness. For people who have been guileful and hypocrites, it looks bony and hard as ebony that reflects light's rays. However, for people who have focused on the good of love and truths of faith, no such calluses is visible. It's because their inner memory is transmitting rays of light into their outer memory. And those rays find definition in its objects or concepts as though it were their foundation or their soil, and find congenial vessels there. This is because the outer memory is the outmost element of the design. Excuse me. Where spiritual and heavenly matters come gently to rest and dwell when there are good, true contents in it. And while we are living in the world, we are engaged in love for the Lord and in thoughtfulness towards our neighbor. We have with us an angelic intelligence and wisdom, but it is hidden away in the depths of our inner memory. There is no way this intelligence and wisdom can become visible before we leave our bodies. Then our natural memory is put to sleep, and we are awakened into consciousness of our inner memory and eventually of our actual angelic memory. I do need to explain briefly how our rational ability is developed. A genuine rational ability is made up of true elements, rational. These are three kinds of true elements: civic, moral, and spiritual. Civic truths have to do with judicial matters and the governmental affairs of nations, in general with what is fair and equitable. Moral truths have to do with matters of personal life in its societal and social context, in general with what is honest and upright, and in particular with all kinds of virtues. Spiritual truths, however, have to do with matters of heaven and the church in general, with what is good in respect to love and what is true in respect to faith. There are three levels of life in every individual. Our rational ability to open at the first level by means of civic truths, the second level by moral truths, and the third level by spiritual truths. We need to realize, though, that our rational ability is not formed and opened simply by virtue of our knowing these truths, but by virtue of living by them. Living by them means loving them out of a spiritual affection, and loving them out of a spiritual affection means loving what is fair and equitable because it is fair and equitable. What is honest and what is upright because it's honest and it's upright. What is good and true because it is good and true. On the other hand, living according to them and loving them out of a physical affection is loving them for the sake of oneself, one's repute, prestige, or profit. Consequently, to the extent that we love these truths out of a carnal affection, we do not become rational because we do not love them. We love ourselves, with the truths serving us the way slaves serve their master. When truths become slaves, they do not become part of us or open any level of our life, not even the first. Rather, they stay in our memory like information in material form, united with love for ourselves, there which is a physical love. We may gather from this how we become rational, namely that at the third level it's through a spiritual love of what is good and true in regard to heaven and the church, and the second level is through a love of what is honest and upright, and the first level is through a love of what is fair and equitable. The latter two loves also become spiritual from a spiritual love of what is good and true that flows into them and unites itself to them and forms its own face in them, so to speak. So spirits and angels have memory just as we do. What they hear and see and think and intend and do stays with them. Through their memory, they are constantly developing their rational ability forever. This is why spirits and angels are being perfected in intelligence and wisdom through experiences of what is true and good just the way we are. I have been shown that spirits and angels have memory by a great deal of experience as well. And I've seen everything they had thought and done up from their memory, both in public and in private, when they were with other spirits. I've also seen people who have been focused on some truths from simple virtue become steeped in insights and in a consequent intelligence and then taken up to heaven. It should be realized, though, that they are not steeped in insights and consequent intelligence beyond the level of the affection for what is good and true that engage them in the world. In fact, each spirit and angel retains the amount and kind of affection that he or she had in the world, and this is the afterward perfected by being filled in. This too goes on forever, since everything is capable of infinite variation and enrichment by different means, so it can be multiplied and it can bear fruit. There is no end to any instance of goodness, since its source is the infinite. In fact, that spirits and angels are constantly being perfected in intelligence and wisdom by means of insights into what is true and good has been presented in the chapters on the wisdom of heaven's angels and non-Christians or people outside the church in heaven and infants in heaven. And this happens at the level of affection for good and true, what engaged them in the world and not beyond it. Our nature after death depends on the kind of life we led in the world. Any Christian knows from the Word that our life is still with us after death, since it says in many places that we will be judged according to our deeds and works, and rewarded accordingly. Further, anyone who thinks on the basis of what is good and from real truth cannot help but see that people who live well enter heaven, and people who live evil lives will enter hell. However, people who are intent on evil do not want to believe that their state after death depends on their life in the world. They think rather, especially when their health begins to fail, that heaven is granted to all on the basis of mercy alone, no matter how people have lived, and this depends on a faith that they keep separate from life. It does say in many places in the Word, in the Bible, that we will be judged and requited according to our deeds and works. And I should like to cite a few passages here. Matthew 16:17. 16 through 27. The human-born one is to come in the glory of the Father and his angels, and he will render to everyone according to his or her works. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord, truly, says the Spirit, so that they may rest from their labors, their works follow them. That's Revelation 14:11, 14:13. And Revelation 2:23 says, I will give to all according to their works. I saw the dead, small and great, standing in the presence of God. Books were open. The dead were judged according to what was written in the books, according to their works. The sea gave up those who had died in it. Death and hell gave up the people who were in them, and they were all judged according to their works. Revelation 20:13-15. See, I am coming, and my reward is with me, and I will give to all according to their works. Revelation 22:12. Everyone who hears my words and does them, I will compare to a prudent person, but everyone who hears my words and does not do them is like a foolish person. Matthew 7:24 and 26. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of the heavens, but the ones who does the will of my Father who is in heaven, who is in the heavens. Many people will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied through your name, and through your name cast out demons, and in your name done many powerful deeds? But when I will confess to them, I do not recognize you. Get away from me, workers of iniquity. Matthew 7:22-23. Then you will begin to say, we have eaten in your presence and drunk, and you have taught in our streets. But he will say, I tell you, I do not recognize you, workers of iniquity. Luke 13:25-27. I will repay them according to their work, according to their deeds of their hands. Jeremiah 25:14. Jehovah, whose eyes are open upon all our paths, to give us according to our ways and according to the fruits of our work. Jeremiah 32:19. I will visit upon their ways and repay them their works. Hosea 4:9. Jehovah deals with us according to our ways and according to our works. Zechariah 1-6. So where the Lord is predicting the last judgment, he recounts only deeds and says that the people who have done good works will enter eternal life, and that the people who have done evil works will enter damnation. Matthew 25:32-46. There are many other passages as well that deal with our salvation and damnation. And we can see our outward life consists of our works and deeds, and the quality of our inner life is manifest through them. Works and deeds, works and deeds, though does not mean works and deeds solely by the way they look in outward form. It also includes the deeper nature. Everyone knows, really, that our deeds and works come from the intention and thought. For if they did not come from there, they would be no more than motions like those of machines or robots. So a deed or work in its own right is simply an effect that derives its soul and life from our volition and thought, even to the point that it is volition and thought in effect. Volition and thought in an outward form. It follows then that the quality of the volition and thought that cause the deed of work determines the quality of the deed or work. It is the thought and intent that are good. The deeds and works are good. If the thought and intent are evil, then the deeds and works are evil, even though they may look alike outward in outward form. Thousands of people can behave like, that is, do the same thing in much like an outward form. One can hardly tell the difference. Yea, deeds in its own right and unique because it comes from a different intent. And I'm going to end there. I hope you have a blessed day. Leave me a comment. Like and subscribe, only if you like it. Bye.